Happy Independence Day, India. Welcome to Down to Earth with Dee. I am going to be going live with two amazing citizens of India, 16-year-old Vihaan and 13-year-old Nav from the Shri Ram School in Delhi. They've set up an NGO called One Step Greener and are doing amazing work, and I would love to know more about it from them. I'm just going to check if they've sent in a request. Hi!
Hi!
How are you both doing? Happy Independence Day!
Happy Independence Day to
I
you
don't know
too.
what
We're
went
doing
wrong
well.
the previous time I tried. I just couldn't add you both.
Oh, yeah. We were sending you requests constantly, so I think there must have been an issue.
Yeah, there was some network or connectivity issue. But welcome. I was just introducing
Thank you
you
for having
both.
us.
It's such a pleasure. I really admire what you're both doing. Let me just quickly apprise everyone who's watching about what you're both doing. So, Vihan is a 16-year-old and he's a bird watcher, a wildlife photographer, a soccer player, a debater, and the founder of this amazing NGO called One Step Greener, along with his younger brother, Nav, who is 13 years old, also a aspiring wildlife photographer, also a bird watcher, and now apparently you are a basketball player.
Yeah, I do play basketball.
And you're a co-founder with your brother of One Step Greener.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just tell everybody what One Step Greener is, and then you can tell us more about it. One Step Greener strives for a zero waste future, working on waste management, recycling, and tree plantation. They do a door-to-door pickup. They hope to change human behavior and have reached out to 1,000+ households and in 13+ colonies recycled over, okay, hold your breath, this is quite phenomenal. Remember, this is a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old boy doing this. They have recycled over 101,608 kgs of waste. They've planted over 15 varieties of 2,000 native trees. They have generated over 83 lakh 20,700 kilograms of oxygen and have helped absorb over 75,177 kgs of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Before we start talking, I would also like to share with everyone what the Constitution of India says, Article 51 AG. It shall be the duty of every citizen of India to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, and wildlife, and to have compassion for all living creatures. Nav and Vihaan, you exemplify this ideal. You're living this with all your heart. Tell me, how did it all start?
So basically what happened was in September 2017, the Ghazipur landfill, which is the largest landfill in Delhi, which is almost as big as the Qutub Minar, actually caught on fire, collapsed and killed 2 people. So as you know, whenever we were young, we always used to love nature. We always used to go to wildlife parks, and we always really wanted to do something to help nature.
So, I mean, like for me at least, the biggest part about all of this was that when we saw the news article about how the Ghazipur landfill had caught on fire, we saw how there were actually people, there were messages about how 2 people had even died, like Nav mentioned, when it collapsed. And the fire itself, and we were going through. Obviously, it was in the latter part of the year, so it was winter, and you know how Delhi gets in the winter, where we have a lot of pollution. So, we were going through pollution. I was on my way to school and I was reading the newspaper. And I'm myself asthmatic, and I've seen me being heavily, really affected by this issue of air pollution in our city. And because of that, for me at least, that moment, we were obviously always trying to think of solutions, because that's the kind of children we are for anything or the other. Like, obviously from what we learned, tree plantations was the biggest part of it. And we were sure we wanted to do something about it. But, land is a huge issue, and the availability of land is a huge issue. So we weren't being able to do it like we are now. So because of that, we were thinking of other solutions, and that's when, the connection between waste and air pollution became abundantly clear to me, at least, that how our waste, the waste that we're producing in our homes, is going to landfills and is becoming essentially fodder for the fire. So that's when I decided that I'm not going to let any of my waste, no matter what it is, go to this landfill so that it can become fodder for this fire.
So after like extensive research and everything, we found out that more than 30% of Delhi's air pollution is directly contributed by waste. And then what we did was, so we used to keep our waste in our house for a month, 2 months. It had become 2 months, and our whole garage was full. The first car went out of the garage, the second car went out of the garage, and we just didn't want to let it go. It came to a point when our grandfather actually told us it's either the waste in the house or you're out of the house. So
Yeah. So then so obviously, when we started piling up the waste in our house, there were two things that we actually noticed. One was the sheer amount of waste that we're producing,
Right.
where it was like a mini mountain inside our backyard, right? And then, also the second thing was people's perceptions that we noticed, that you have clean dry waste, right, which is plastics and papers, but still it's treated like something that needs to be thrown away as soon as possible. Obviously there are hazards to it, but we also, that really prompted us, that whole mountain prompted us to look for a solution where we could, relatively get that waste recycled, get that waste not to go to the landfill, not to get thrown on the streets, to actually get it to come back as another product and, not harm our planet in the process.
Okay, so
And that's
Vihaan and
when
Nav, you've made a very important connection that you discovered on your own because of a problem that you experienced, and the fact that you responded to it from a place of empathy, and you also wanted to be a part of the solution. So you made it a personal mission to be the change you were seeking. So the first connection that you noticed was the connection between air pollution and waste.
Right.
And then the second thing that you realized very quickly was that waste can be managed at a personal level. That if each one of us became individually responsible for the waste that we generate on a daily basis, we can make a big difference. Now, this is the kind of human behavioral change that we are seeking, because if there is one thing that we can instantly at an individual level change about ourselves, is our perception and understanding of how we respond and manage our waste, and the connection between human health and waste. So for those who are watching, waste not only contributes to air pollution, it contributes to water pollution, it contributes to soil pollution, and therefore also impacts human health significantly. So when we decide at an individual level to manage our waste, Nav, I want you to explain to everybody how do you, so start with saying, how did you start managing your waste? Of course, you created mountains of waste in your home, but what were those mountains of waste, and were you composting your wet waste? So just tell us about the segregation aspect, and then how did you both manage to convince more residents? I mean, you've reached out to 1,000+ households. How did you manage to convince so many more people to do what you were doing?
So what actually happened was that after, those giant mountains of waste in our garage, so we actually had segregated them into these categories. So we have paper waste, plastic waste, glass waste, metal waste, and e-waste. So then when we segregate them, so we segregated them in our garage, and what actually happened was then we tried to find recyclers, we tried to find manufacturers who's actually willing to take that paper, that dry waste, and actually recycle it. And for our wet waste, we used to compost it. So what happened was, when we got in touch with these recyclers and manufacturers, it was really hard for them. They normally buy waste in huge bulks, like really big bulks. Like for our small garage mountain was nothing for them, because they never really used to take such small quantities. So this is when we actually reached out to the residents saying that, so we started having talks, we started having presentations on how to segregate waste and how to segregate waste and what are the impacts of recycling your waste. So if you recycle your waste, a lot of like things will a lot of good things will happen. So yeah, and then what happened was,
so like what Nav said about how we basically understood that for recyclers it didn't make sense economically on any other ground for them to come to an individual's house, pick up their dry waste and take it to recycle because it was just so little. So our decision making process, enough said, was that why don't we get everyone together? If we can make a cooperate, we get so many people involved, then obviously the amount of waste we'll have will increase. That means that they'll be interested and then they'll want to take it as well.
So you're creating a value chain and you're making everybody a part of the value chain. Got it.
Exactly.
So then what we do is, after we've given the presentations and all, we've also offered them a pickup and a door-to-door service. So basically, if they sign up with us, we will basically give them a schedule on which day we will come in the month and the time. And after they segregated their waste, we'll hire a truck and we'll come to their house, we'll pick up their waste, we'll wait, and according to the amount of waste they give us, we also pay them. So that becomes an incentive for people to actually segregate better and also to, convince other people to also segregate their waste.
So one second now, hold on. You're saying that you pay people to give you their waste?
Yes.
How much do you pay them?
So it really differs. So around, I think it's 2.4 rupees per kg of paper. But there are also other rates and they keep on changing according to, the recyclers. And we only actually partner with recyclers who have the PCB, which is the Pollution Control Board certificate. And yeah, so then after that we take their waste. So we go to different houses in the same colony. So one day will be at one colony, the other day will be a different colony. And we'll take it to our warehouse where we'll actually micro-segregate it. So if you guys are, if the households are segregating into paper, we'll actually segregate that same paper into, say, shredded paper, colored paper, A5 paper, A4 paper, and after we've done that, when we have the certain amount of quantities of waste, we'll actually contact the factories, we'll send in our truck, and those will get recycled. So a lot of people actually say that, why don't we just give our waste to the kabali walas? I mean, they're recycling their waste. But actually, if they only really take products which you can sell really fast and have a lot of, which you can sell really fast and which don't really have a big lifespan, like paper. So
yeah, and also it's always about the money aspect of it. So there's leakages that happen. So like an example is that if, for example, the Indian market of paper is flooded in with, say, from the Western world, right? A lot of paper comes imported into India now that China has banned the import of waste as well. So when that happens, prices fall dramatically. So for people, it makes economic sense to just sell it to the bag and shoe industry, which is not really recycling it, which is taking the paper and stuffing it into bags or shoes and then giving those boxes. So the product life cycle really of the paper is completely diminished. So, instead of, if you recycled it, it would, continue to last generations. This is now just, going to the bag and shoe industry. It's then coming to someone's house and someone's just throwing it and it's going to the landfill. So what we realized really early on is that we needed a solution which was transparent, which that people could see where their waste is going, because that is what we would want. We would want to know. The whole desire of this is that our waste shouldn't go to the landfill and we should know where our waste is going. So that's why, we've aimed to create a very transparent and very eco-friendly process, even though sometimes the rates may differ, where if you're going for a PCB certificate, they might give you lower rates just because of the certificate, right?
Right. Okay, tell me, what has your experience been with plastic packaging? So a lot of the chips and the beverages and like the different, things that we eat at home is packaged in plastic. Do you collect all of that as well, and what do you do with it?
Yeah, so we actually collect all of that dry waste, but we're actually giving it to people who are making things out of it. So
So I mean, what Nav is trying to say is that when we
So
have a
you're
lot of
creating a circular economy. You're basically
exactly.
ensuring that the lifespan of the plastic is not
Exactly.
it continues, but does so in a way that
Right.
creates employment and utility of the waste that has been generated.
yeah,
Right?
exactly.
So also another, when we're talking about plastic packaging, you have two different general varieties of plastic. You have the single-use plastic that is not easily recyclable, and then you have the other types of plastic.
There's
Which are
also the multi-layer plastic, which
exactly.
can't be recycled.
Right. So the multi-layer, and then you have the single-use plastic. For those, we are trying to look at solutions where, like eco bricks, if you've heard of eco bricks,
Yes, I have.
we're giving them for eco bricks or plastic roads for that matter. So that we're taking everything. Some things that we're not, is not going to be able to sustain our NGO as well, but we're still giving it, even if it's costing us money. We're giving it because the whole purpose behind creating an NGO was that we have to do the right thing.
It's amazing. Both of you are just like amazing. So inspiring. Tell
Thank you,
me,
sir.
what and like so okay. So we've talked about bringing about personal behavioral change. So
Yeah,
starting to segregate waste at home. Then you've created a system that creates an end-to-end solution. So from collection to segregation to the whole process of recycling. Then, of course, you've spoken about composting. Now, the third aspect that I really wanted to touch upon was your tree plantation drive, because that is something really amazing.
yeah.
And you've managed to find the land to do it. I also know that a lot of the trees that you've planted have survived and are doing
Yeah.
really well. So do you want to talk to us about how you
Yeah.
do this tree plantation, and how are you connecting the tree plantation to this waste management process that you've set in place?
So how we actually do the tree plantations is we actually try to do them in a Miyawaki style forest. So we're doing urban afforestation.
Sorry, just like a Miyawaki style forest, but it's not exactly Miyawaki style because of the terrain and the climatic conditions in Delhi.
Also,
So it
because
is.
Miyawaki is a Japanese style of
Yeah.
afforestation,
Yeah.
urban afforestation. But in India, a lot of people who are adopting this style of forestation is essentially with indigenous, which is locally
Yes.
available native trees.
Yeah.
And I guess the spacing is a little different because the native trees respond differently to the spacing. Go ahead.
Exactly. So the spacing is a lot further away than you. So normally in Miyawaki, it's literally next to each other. So you'd have trees at this
There's no
distance
space to
so that-
walk through or do.
Yeah.
no space whatsoever, and that's very dense foresting. And generally in Japan, you have tall trees that shoot up straight. In India, the native trees that we've tried to plant in the Aravalli area, they go wide. And because of that, we need to give them a little more space. So it's more of a dense forestation where we have a lot of trees in a small area of land, but with relative spacing between them. So as Nav was saying,
Yeah, so basically the Miyawaki style forest is when you plant trees in small distance, so they grow faster, there's better, it's more dense, and because of that, the biodiversity in that particular place also increases. And yeah.
so also, so we're trying to create a layered forest with our plantation. So that means that you have shrubs at the bottom, you have like moss, and you're trying to encourage different layers of the forest to actually thrive. So you're encouraging both bacteria, you're encouraging insects, you're encouraging all kinds of birds, and sometimes even animals. We've had mongoose, different kinds of mongoose come into our forests as well. So these are the whole aim with our tree plantation was that we want to create a lung for our city, right? From our waste management, we are trying to avoid having created that pollution in the first place, because the virgin resources that are needed when you are creating new products is being reduced. When we recycle, that means literally the waste is going to the manufacturer is using it in their process. That means that the manufacturer is not having to go ahead and cut those many trees, for example, if it's making paper. So that was our prevention strategy, and now this is like a more immediate strategy that the air pollution is bad and we need to immediately mitigate it, and that was the whole philosophy behind our NGO's two-part strategy, where we are handling from the beginning and then at the end as well.
So how do you connect the waste to the tree plantation? This is obviously also a great incentive for all the people who are a part of what you're doing.
Right.
How do you connect the two? Do you have a particular day where you all go and plant trees? How's that working out?
So we've done 2 plantations so far, and now the plantation is still going on for this year. So we did one last year where we planted 300 trees in a very small area, and we've got 100% survival rate up till today. So that was a proof of concept in some ways, but also like the way we connect the two is that we've been able to create such a big community, almost 1,000 people, as you said, of people interested in the environment and waste management. And what we just sent out a message to all our patrons, whoever's helped us with the NGO so far last year, and we had more than 100, 200, 300, actually 300.
Yeah.
300 people come, clean up the area, plant the trees with us. So the way we connected is, one is we've had such a huge impact, and we've had so many people who have been involved with us, and we're getting them directly involved with tree plantations. But also what as Nav said, what we've done with our NGO, like our waste management part, we've created a self-sustaining cycle that doesn't require our external input as much, and which actually is breaking even right now. So, which is sometimes also creating funds which we're using for the tree plantations.
So the way we actually break even is that we don't depend on donations at all. So only for the tree plantation.
We would like them, but we don't depend on them.
Yeah.
So so what we do is we actually charge people every month 200 rupees per month, and this is solely for the truck cost. And the waste which and when we pay them for the waste, the mill is also giving us that same amount of money in return. So it's basically like a whole loop where we don't need any more donations, and we don't need any donations to sustain it, and it can go on its own.
To grow it, of course, we need donations. We need as much help as we can. But we also for people who are interested about this, it's important to know that you're not spending money on it.
Right.
A lot of people have come back to us and told us that when you're paying for the waste, we're making up the 200 rupees itself. So it's literally a free service.
Wow. Is there anything you'd like to both add? I mean, I'm just so blown away by both of you. I'm sure everybody, I'm seeing all the comments and what people are saying. They really admire what you're doing. And I really hope that Nav and Vihaan, you can inspire many more young people in the country to do what you're doing, to follow in your steps, and be a part of a solution that we urgently require. Is there anything else you would like to say before we wrap this up?
So I don't think I really went in detail for composting, but we also have a composting guide and all on our website where we actually specify so depending on your household, we've actually given options for what you can do to compost better. So we have, for say, smaller houses, we have different compost devices which you can use, and we also have them in different price ranges which you can check. So
and we're also working on a solution where we can literally help whole neighborhoods create energy out of their compost as well. So there are different things that we're doing now to encourage a zero waste lifestyle, but I think the most important thing we both would like to tell everyone is that it starts with you. It starts at home. So when I started and I convinced Nav to join, I literally, right now in my room, I have 4 dustbins. I have 4 dustbins segregating it neatly.
So and even when you're trashing waste, you're putting everything separately, so you don't have to.
Exactly, because even when the Kuda Wala is trying to sell like a plastic bottle or something, if it's soiled, he has less chances of selling it. So I think, you want to help, anyone who can possibly use the waste to help themselves in the future as well. So, you know, starts at home. Starts with cleaning your utensils, your plastic utensils. It starts with reducing it first and foremost.
Yeah.
Then, of course, cleaning it, keeping it segregated, keeping it clean, so that everyone, it actually does get to the place that you want it to get to, and not the landfills.
And also, a lot of people have asked us, what about the kabadi walas? They also have a job and things. So what we're actually doing is we're actually employing those same kabadi walas in our organization. We're training them. We're giving them safety gloves. We're giving them the proper wage they need. And we work with them as well.
So like, we're trying to, so a lot of people, when they do start in this sector, what they tend to do is they replace the informal sector, which is not what we want to do. We want to include them because their livelihoods matter. They've sustained this NGO of this whole, the waste in our cities and in our country for almost 1,000 years. And they're really the core of it, and we have to include them as well.
Yes, it is a system that exists. It may be an informal system, but it is a system that exists, and it's wonderful that you've chosen to include them into your solutions and make them a part of what you're doing. Nav and Vihaan, it has been such a pleasure talking to both of you. You've made my Independence Day so special, and I'm sure everybody who's watching is going to be just as inspired and motivated to reduce their consumption of plastic waste, of wasteful lifestyles, and start learning to manage their waste better. And of course, if they want to learn more and do better, they can always follow you on Instagram on One Step Greener. Thank you for being who you are. More power to both of you. All my love and good wishes, and I really look forward to meeting you when I'm in Delhi next.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
And please tell your parents that they are amazing.
Will do.
Lots of love to both of you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you to everyone who's joined us. Thank you so much. Happy Independence Day, India.